daydream. Hey, you're listening to Cyprian Kane and the Cyprian Kane Radio Show podcast. We're in Radio Drive. Let's take a trip. Driving down the street, it feels so new. Every face I see reminds me of you. I wanna see you there tonight. Feeling lonely and I'm crazy for you. Oh babe, hey, what can I do? It's all the same. If I pull up and I find you there in that car, I'm feeling lonely and I'm crying. Every now and then I'll show my face. Think that I found my baby down on Radio Drive. Are you really just a dream? Just like they say. Are you fast and cool and lean? Do you want to get away? Let's cruise spots until we find one we like. Let's be together for tonight. So, are you really flying like me? Or are you a supposer? That's something to be. If you're feeling like your world's at an end and that's all, I'm feeling lonely and I get what I like. Every now and then I'll show my face. I wanna take you for a ride down to Radio Drive. Let's cruise spots until we find what we like. Let's be together for tonight. I'm glad I found my baby down on Radio Drive.
Hello, folks, and now it's time for the Cyprian Kane Radio Podcast.
with Cyprian Kane and Martin Markovich, Dr. Markovich, who has a book that's coming out sometime in the future. The working title right now is The Anti-Communist Cold War. And I'm happy to have him join me this evening. Martin, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, and I was thinking of our prior shows.
Yes.
We did one on the early years of rock and roll, which is somewhat of a predecessor to this one, and we did one on the big band era of the 1930s and 1940s, a part of jazz history, and then we also did one on the movies, the silent movies, which went into the 1920s before sound movies took over, and so we covered a fairly broad range, but for me, my area of greatest interest is really rock music. That's the thing I know the most about, and that's the area that you've performed in a great deal and then written so many songs in. So I came to thinking actually after the explosiveness and tremendous attention of the late 1960s, there was the period of the early 70s, which was when I was a teenager and when I got interested in rock music. And I was thinking of some of the great artists of that era that some of them hopefully our audience has heard of, but our audience may not know much about them, or even if they know something about them, they may not realize that these particular performers tended to hit their peak around the same time in that early 1970s, post-1960s era.
What a great idea for a show. So I'm excited to delve into this with you.
Okay, and let's since we don't have any surprises, I'll just say the names of the 6 artists we're going to look at here and then get started. The first one is Elton John. The second one is Led Zeppelin. The third one is Stevie Wonder. The fourth one is Carole King. The fifth one is John Denver. And the sixth one is Paul McCartney and Wings.
Wow, that's a stacked deck.
Yeah, quite a lot of variety of different styles of music, and in fact, different musical instruments with that group. So we might as well start with Elton John.
Well, if I may say, the 70s was a very interesting time for me, and so I'm excited to take this journey with you, Martin.
Yep, you're a little younger than I am, but you remember the 70s.
I do. I remember. I grew up hearing these songs, these artists that you mentioned, in the airwaves, in my young little mind, and now they're coming out into conversation. It's fantastic.
And Elton John, who is still alive, is a keyboard player and a vocalist, and that's one of the points we wanted to touch on, was that whereas in the late 60s, we saw the rise of guitar rock bands, including the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, the Who, the Beach Boys. There was a little bit of an alternation in emphasis in the early 70s, and we saw some keyboard players, and we'll talk about 3 of them who became very prominent. And Elton John, who actually did play a classical grand piano, is the first one, and probably the biggest star of that era.
I would say so. He had so many hits. It was, what was it, like 30 years long? He had a hit every year.
Yeah.
Or something like this. Yeah. It was such an incredible, prolific journey for him.
And he became a superstar. He started, and in his early records, he was a little bit of a moody moaner. He was maybe expressing what he felt inside, kind of a little bit like Jackson Browne, who came up at that same time.
Jackson Browne. Yeah.
But Elton varied his vocal style. He varied his musical style very rapidly over the course of his first few albums. He got a rock band and really was a very successful rocker by the years 1972 and 1973. And that leads us to his classic album, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road.
Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. Wow.
And he was one of the few rock performers ever who had a successful studio double album. It's not everybody can write good songs, and very few people can write a double album's worth of good songs in the course of less than a year. And Elton did that with that album, and we highly recommend that album. And it's probably his best known album. But Elton was successful, as you said, a great deal. And Billboard shows that he had 9 number 1 hits.
Wow.
Starting with Crocodile Rock, which I believe was 73, that same year. Wasn't on that album, was on the prior album. Benny and the Jets, which was on the Goodbye Yellow Brick Road album. Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds,
Yeah,
a cover of the
great
Beatles
remake,
tune.
Yeah.
Philadelphia Freedom from 1976, a song called Island Girl, which if you listen,
I do know Island Girl. Yes.
If you listen to the lyrics of that one, you'll get woken up. Then he had Don't Go Breaking My Heart with Kiki D singing the female side.
Yes.
Also, a very big hit that he actually performed with Stevie Wonder, as well as Dionne Warwick and Gladys Knight, a song called That's What Friends Are For, which was a song recorded for charity. Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me.
I love
from
that
74.
I loved it when George Michael and him did that together too on stage.
Yeah, I think that was the version that actually hit #1, although he had success with it as a solo artist. And finally, Candle in the Wind, which was a song that was originally written for Marilyn Monroe, but which was used for Princess Di after her tragic death. And Princess Di apparently was a good friend of Elton John's. And then she suffered her difficult marriage and her tragic death in the late 1990s. And Elton re-recorded Candle in the Wind with some new lyrics for Princess Di. And there we go, another #1. Elton wrote the music for his songs. The lyrics were written by a fellow called Bernie Taupin.
Yes.
And most of his, even though they sort of went their separate ways at one point, most of Elton's big hits have the lyrics from Bernie Taupin, which indeed are some very interesting, different lyrics. I believe all the songs on Goodbye Yellow Brick Road have lyrics by Bernie, and they just cover a wide range of subjects. They cover the Old West, they cover sci-fi, they cover Benny and the Jets, which was about the early days of glam rock. Bernie was a tremendously talented lyricist.
I love the idea of taking that kind of creative exploration of different themes throughout one album, and it turned out to be such an incredible album too.
Yeah, it's great. I have a little section here called Performance Highlight, which is basically where did this artist go beyond just grinding out hit singles and albums. And for Elton, it was definitely his concerts. His concerts featured costumes like you couldn't believe. The most conspicuous pairs of glasses you've ever seen. Sometimes the glasses were bigger than his head. Sometimes he showed up and walked around on stilts. In addition to being a very talented musician and a very good singer, he really brought the showmanship back to rock music, and that was one of the key things he did in that era. Anything you want to say or ask about Elton?
The couple things that I would say about Elton is he's obviously an incredible talent. He's always been in my ears ever since I was a kid. I grew up listening to hearing his melodies before I even knew his name. And then with songs like Benny and the Jets, just the way it pictures it, hey kids, and all this, the way it goes into the songs and everything, I think it's top notch.
All right, and finally on the personal
side, thumbs up.
And on the personal side, because some, believe it or not, some of our listeners may not be familiar with him or may not know his personal history. So just for the sake of information, we should say he is gay.
Open.
And has been open. When at the peak of his stardom, he was still in the closet, as most people were in those days.
Yes,
but
I remember.
He's been openly gay for over 30 years, and he's sponsored the Elton John AIDS Foundation for over 30 years. And the figure I saw was $565 million in charitable contributions from himself or others. So
that is wonderful work.
So we just want to, for people who are being introduced to him, they should be aware of that.
Yes.
Okay. So
Okay,
number
fantastic.
2 on our
Moving
list.
on to number 2, and we've already got a power pack show going.
Yeah, Led Zeppelin.
Oh boy, what a jump!
Yeah, now for something
From
completely
Elton.
different.
Boom, here it is.
Yep.
Wait until you hear the outro.
Now, Led Zeppelin is a group. They're not active anymore, but I believe most of them are still alive. The group consists of Jimmy Page, guitar, Robert Plant, vocals, John Paul Jones, bass and keyboards, and John Bonham, the drummer, who unfortunately died in 1980.
Yes.
Led Zeppelin, people can debate about it, but Led Zeppelin is considered to be the first heavy metal band. While groups like Cream,
yes,
and The Who certainly were hard rock bands and brought new levels of sound and a hard rock style to it. But Led Zeppelin took it to a further extreme, and I think you can tell me if you agree, but I from what I've seen and what I think is fair myself, I would call them the first heavy metal band. And dozens of imitators have come along in their footsteps.
I would say it was like somebody in the course of the veins of Paganini stepped on stage with an electric guitar, and while he did so, took with him these other great musicians, great vocalists, great drummer, great everything, and kind of married classical music to rock fusion at the same time, and brought in a heavier sound. I think that's the way I would describe what hit me when I first heard them. And when you hear Stairway to Heaven, of course, which is considered one of the quintessential rock songs, if not the anthem of rock songs, it's a huge, huge hit.
Right.
And beyond hits, people talk about hits all the time. I think beyond hits, just as a body of work, it's incredible.
Right, and we were going to mention that the album is called Led Zeppelin 4 because they numbered most of their albums were given numbers, and that song Stairway to Heaven, which was a little bit of a departure from them, more of a moderate tempo, maybe a little bit of classical influence. The song slowly builds up over the course of 8 minutes. And that was definitely, when I was listening to radio back in the day, I don't think there was any question. Stairway to Heaven was the #1 airplay song on FM radio.
Yeah, they were the kings,
Yeah. And their major collaborator, someone may not be super well known, was their manager, Peter Grant, who was completely single-minded and ruthless in contributing to their success. And he, along with the members of the band, developed a strategy that they only recorded albums and they only did live concerts. They never released a single during their heyday, and they didn't appear on TV. But they wanted people to get into their sound, listen to the whole album instead of just listening to a hit single, go to the concert, immerse themselves in the music, no 5-minute TV appearance, go to the concert, immerse themselves into the music for 2 or 3 hours. And that was how they became the most successful band in the world, the only band on our list of early 70s superstars here. There were others, of course, but they were, certainly in terms of album sales, they were the biggest. Their performance highlight is the movie called The Song Remains the Same, which is a combination of concert footage from one of their concerts, documentary material about the band, and some fantasy sequences, all wrapped up together into an album of a movie of about 2 hours. And you get to see a good bit of Peter Grant. If you want to know what their manager Peter Grant was like and why he was so essential to their success, you should definitely watch that movie. Okay, and on to Stevie Wonder.
Stevie Wonder, another big switch here. We're shifting gears in all different directions.
That's right, Stevie Wonder. And again, for our listeners who may not know, Stevie Wonder is a black individual who actually started with Motown Records as a 12-year-old back in the 1960s,
Yeah.
who again, a little bit comparable to Elton John. He adopted more of a rock star. He opened for the Rolling Stones on one of their tours, and he became a tremendous superstar in the early 70s. There's a little
Hit
bit
after hit after hit.
a tremendous number of hits, a little bit of a
Higher Ground, Superstition. I mean,
right,
you name it.
right. Little bit of a parallel with the Beatles in that the Beatles came along, and we had the British invasion,
Yes.
and we had the whole style of music that was associated with the British invasion, British artists who nobody heard of in the United States before the Beatles came along. Sort of, kind of, a little bit of a similarity with Stevie Wonder when he developed his combination of rock and soul style, and the thing that was happening at the same time was disco. So,
yeah.
Stevie Wonder did not identify as being solely a disco artist, but he had a lot of influence on disco, and his heyday and his development of a style, including some elements from 60s rock, like longer songs, that went hand in hand with the disco movement. So he was very influential on that disco era, again, in the early 70s. Stevie is primarily a keyboard player. He's played the synthesizer on most of his records. He's a multi-instrumentalist. A lot of his records, he's the only person who's playing anything, and of course, he's a vocalist with a very striking voice. His most celebrated album is called Inner Visions from 1973, and it features the song. Some of the songs off the top of my head are "Living for the City," "He's Mr. Know-It-All," "Golden Lady."
My goodness.
9 songs on that album, and it's a very memorable album. Just every song is great. They average about 5 minutes, and I believe that was the one that won him his first Best Album Grammy, and he wound up winning a total of 25 Grammy Awards over the course of his career, and he is still alive also. And he has 10 number one hits. Fingertips, which is one that was recorded when he was 13 or 14. Superstition,
Yes.
one of those funky songs that brought in the clavinet keyboard. You Are the Sunshine of My Life, one of his more lyrical songs. You Haven't Done Nothing, I Wish, Sir Duke, Ebony and Ivory with Paul McCartney, Master Blaster, which is better known as Jammin', a tribute to Bob Marley. I Just Called to Say I Love You, which was used, I believe, on AT&T commercial. And finally, Part-Time Lover. So incredible set of 10 number one hits, a real elite performance. One of Stevie's major collaborators was Berry Gordy, the founder.
I love Berry Gordy.
The founder of Motown Records, who, along with all the other great groups and artists he developed, he discovered Stevie Wonder, and Stevie spent most of his career
getting it done in Motown.
Motown Records. And I don't think we mentioned before, Stevie has been blind from birth. So but despite being blind, he has recorded 3 soundtrack albums. He has had the ability to have people tell him what's going on the screen and compose music for it. And he's had great success with that. So that's
impressive. Stevie Wonder, the name is truly apt.
Yes. So let's go on then.
Okay.
Okay, our fourth person, still mixing it up.
Mixing it up.
We've got Carole King.
Oh, another big jump.
Another big jump.
I like the way you've put these together. They're quite the quantum leap.
Well, thank you,
artists.
Cyprian. Carole King is also a keyboard player. She's a piano player primarily. She's a vocalist too, as all these artists are. But she started out as purely a songwriter, not a performer at all. And when she was 18 years old, she co-wrote and produced the record-breaking number one hit in, I think it was 1961, "Will You Love Me Tomorrow" by
tune.
the Shirelles.
I play that tune too.
And she arranged the string on it from a book. She didn't have any formal training or experience with that. Her most celebrated album, which was competitive with Led Zeppelin and the Beatles when it came out in terms of being one of the most best-selling albums of all time, is an album called Tapestry. Came out in 1971. It's a mix of some of her old songs. She does her own version of Will You Love Me Tomorrow on that album, along with a bunch of new songs. One of the best known ones, which hit #1, is It's Too Late. It's Too Late, Baby.
It's Too Late, Baby.
Yeah, and it's an incredible album, kind of a retrospective on her career at that point, and it sold 11 million copies.
Was your Sylvain on there too?
No, that was Carly Simon.
That was Carly Simon.
Yeah. Came along a couple of years later. Carole King wrote 5 #1 hits, which were recorded by 5 different artists. Will You Love Me Tomorrow, which we already mentioned.
Yeah.
Take Good Care of My Baby, which was recorded by Bobby B, sort of in the Brill Cream era of rock music. Then The Locomotion, the dance tune.
Everybody's doing it.
Everybody's doing The Locomotion. That was sung by an artist named Little Eva, who actually started out as Carole King's and her husband's babysitter.
Oh.
And then Carole had It's Too Late, which we mentioned already. And then her final #1 was You've Got a Friend, which was recorded by James Taylor.
Right.
And hit #1, his only #1. So again, just incredible. And she's written dozens, probably over 100 top 40 songs for all kinds of artists. Her major collaborator and her first husband was Jerry Goffin, who has since passed on. And he is credited as the lyricist on her early hits. We don't know. In fact, she may have contributed some of the lyrics. Possibly he contributed some of the music. But the listing is he wrote the lyrics, she wrote the music, which was, again, unusual at that time. People would think, well, a guy will write the lyrics and the girl will write people thought that a guy would write the music and the girl would write the lyrics. But in King Goffin, it was the reverse. She wrote the music because she was a piano player. Yeah. He wrote the lyrics because he was the sensitive poet type. And they had a lot of big hits. Unfortunately, their marriage did not last. But he was one of her main collaborators.
Though they really did try to make it.
They really did. In fact, the song was probably about the end of their marriage. But anyway, the performance highlight for her is...
So if we might answer the question, will you still love me tomorrow?
Well, maybe didn't quite go there. Yeah. The performance highlight for her is a musical was made about her life and her songs. The musical was called Beautiful. And it played on Broadway from 2014 to 2019, something that our younger listeners might be aware of, the hit musical about the career of the incredible Carole King, who is still alive and started producing #1 hits when she was 18 years old.
18 years old.
And Carole is one of the most successful Jewish woman performers of all time. She's a Jewish girl from Brooklyn, and her identity has contributed to her success. Okay, so
fantastic.
Move on.
I'm excited to hear who's next.
The next one, another style of music, John Denver. Oh,
now you're hitting my roots.
A guitarist,
touched my roots on that one.
Vocalist, a beautiful singer, one of the most beautiful voices of anybody who could be considered a rock star. And really, he started out as a folk singer. He always had a country twinge to his sound, and I think there are country stations that still play him. But he was actually #1 mainstream rock star in the day. Soft rock, but still rock.
You know, one of the things that interested me was the fact that when they decided to get all these country folks together, these stars, this was a few years ago, they did a medley of Country Roads. And they put in Dolly Parton's I Will Always Love You into it and had all these people singing it. It's kind of like a tribute to John Denver too.
Really? Okay. Well, I missed that. We'll talk a little bit about the end of his life. He's not with us anymore, but want to mention one of his most celebrated albums. He had a lot of very successful albums. Several albums hit #1, but he had a live album called An Evening with John Denver. Double live album, came out in 1975. That has the hit version of Thank God I'm a Country Boy. And that was a great illustration of his versatility as an artist. And he wrote most of his songs, but he performed other people's songs as well. And he was one of his great strengths was during a time in the early 70s when we still had the generation gap from the 60s. John Denver was really able to unite people. He appealed to the old and the young. He appealed to the country crowd as well as the rock crowd. He had a lively personality on TV. He really had a massive appeal.
I believe he spoke to Congress too. Is that correct?
I don't remember that.
One time when the I want to say it's Tipper Gore, but it was somebody. It was the issue over lyrics and everything in rock and roll, and you had Dee Snider come forward.
Okay.
From Twisted Sister.
I wouldn't be surprised.
And I believe Frank Zappa did as well, and then also John Denver was involved.
Right. Well, certainly the music industry would have very much wanted for John Denver to testify. I don't remember that he did, but
he was quite a character.
He was the representative.
Do you remember his movie, Oh God?
Well, we were just getting to that.
Oh, yeah, good. That was fantastic. I love it.
Yeah. Well, again, a lot of rock stars, a lot of singers, a lot of bands have had #1 albums. Not that many have had successful movies, but John Denver had a big hit with his co-star George Burns.
Yes.
In the movie Oh God. It's a very adorable movie, frankly, and suitable for kids, and we recommend it, from 1977. John Denver also worked with a guy named Milt Oken, who was an old-time music industry figure. He was a manager, a producer, a music publisher, and an editor of several books. And he had started out working with Harry Belafonte and the Calypso sound back in the early 50s, and also Peter, Paul, and Mary during the folk revival, which John Denver was part of. So he's one of the main collaborators. So the only other thing, you have anything else to say about John, or shall we get to
Yes,
that?
I want to say that when I grew up,
yeah.
You know, the first songs that I learned from my family that were passed on to me from my aunts and different ones were John Denver songs.
And so you found people in the older generation love John Denver.
I found people just all around.
Yeah.
Whenever you play a John Denver song, you know, people it hits the heartstrings of every culture, it seems like. When I was over in the Philippines, they liked John Denver.
Okay. All right. That's great. And his #1 hits were called Sunshine on My Shoulders, Annie's song. You want to give us You Fill Up My Senses?
You fill up my senses.
Most people have hopefully heard that one.
Yes.
Thank God I'm a Country Boy, and a song called I'm Sorry.
I'm sorry if.
I'm sorry, yes.
Sorry for the way things are in China.
Right, and that sort of leads into...
More than anything else. Sorry for myself.
That's right. Some very moving lyrics, and unfortunately, he wrote that song about the trouble he was having in his marriage. His first marriage ended in 1982. He never recovered from it. His career sadly went downhill, and he died in a solo plane crash in 1997. Very concerning that it may have been an intentional death on his part. But God, what a great entertainer, and someone who really, I think, contributed to the lives of practically everybody in the entire country.
Remember him well.
All right. Do we have time for the last one?
We still have time, yes.
Okay.
We're doing good on time.
And the last one is Paul McCartney and Wings.
Paul McCartney. Oh, boy.
Yes.
One of the boys from Liverpool.
Right. And Paul had tremendous success in the 1970s, but people still thought of him as a Beatle.
A little Beatle.
Even though the Beatles had broken up. And that is part, not just Paul McCartney's problem, but actually that whole era we've been talking about, the 1970s, great as it was, great as the music was, it just doesn't stick in people's mind the way the 60s does, with the Vietnam War the civil unrest,
landing on the moon,
the
everything.
landing on the moon, the drug experimentation. The
Assassination.
1970s just seemed a little quiet and boring compared to the 1960s. Of course, a lot of people were grateful it was quiet and boring,
Yeah.
but the music was not boring.
No, and there were so many masterpieces coming out, and so many solo artists just coming out and doing their thing.
Right, and Paul McCartney and his new band, which was called Wings. Paul was a bass player.
Yes, ready to make a name for himself again.
You don't normally think of a bass player as being the star, but nobody was a bigger star than Paul McCartney. He also played all the other instruments, drums, guitar, keyboard, and of course a vocalist. His most celebrated album is an album called Band on the Run from 1973. Had 9 #1 hits on his own: Uncle Albert, Admiral Halsey, My Love, Band on the Run, Listen to What the Man Said, Silly Love Songs, With a Little Luck, Coming Up, Ebony and Ivory with Stevie Wonder, and also Say, Say, Say with Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson.
Hit number one. What an artist. Life did not end for him with the breakup of the Beatles. A major collaborator, a fellow named Denny Lane, a guitarist, a guy who wrote a few songs also and had previously played with the Moody Blues. He made the band Wings not just Paul McCartney's solo project, but Denny Lane, a talented guitarist in his own right, contributed a great deal. Performance highlight. Paul reached a degree of closure with a triple live album called Wings Over America, released, I believe, in 1975. And he met, along with all his great Wings hits up to that time, he also included 4 Beatles songs. So that was a moment of closure for him with a triple live album. Personal.
Impressive.
Paul, despite being the incredible superstar he actually shunned the spotlight. He preferred to live quietly with his wife, Linda. They had 4 children, and they were married. No divorce there. They were married from 1969 until her death in 1998. A truly lovebird couple.
Yes. What a beautiful story. For all the love songs he wrote, he lived up to them too.
Amen. So that's it for me. I've shared what I know about that era when I got turned on to music.
What a remarkable sharing that was too. I'm still going through the songs in my head, every one of them, from Led Zeppelin to Carole King to John Denver. There's just so much music out there, you know. I'm so glad that we have an endless amount of shows to do because there's so many artists to go over.
Thank heaven. And maybe we can go out with a little bit of music from that era too.
Sounds fantastic. I think I have something in mind here that passed on to me. Let's try a little bit of this. You've been listening to the smooth sounds of Cyprian Kane and Dr. Martin Markovich on the WTRP network. Keep it rolling. Until next time, take care of yourself and each other. God bless.